and
Excellent.
Thanks, Aki.
Okay, excellent. And good morning, everybody, and welcome to this session. I'm quite excited by the use of technology. I'm now at the age of 63, kind of getting used to all of this stuff, but it really just creates all sorts of possibilities. So it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, we are here to talk about obviously the things that are exciting for all of us, which is obviously the world of customers and customer care. I know that many of you are directly involved in that. Some of you maybe on the periphery. But what is important, okay, is really how is it that we can create then this incredible brand that our customers love. That's the secret over there. And so there will be times when it'll be a bit clumsy as I shift from my slides to videos and to live again, but the content will be there, and I hope that by now you've all received your PDF with the summary of the kinds of things that we are talking about. So let me start off quickly by sharing that little Winnie the Pooh cartoon that I put up over here. I'm going to quickly put it up here for you again. Really describes where we're at right now. Okay, where are we going? We're going home, because that seems to be the best thing to do right now. One of the nicest comments I got on my WhatsApp as time has passed was that maybe the earth or God or whatever you believe in has given us a message. They've sent us to our rooms and said, think very carefully about what you've done. There is no doubt in my mind that everything has changed as a result of this, and it will continue to change. So the question then is, how are we going to deal with it? Okay, are we going to just sit back and say, well, there's just nothing I can do here? Is there a situation where we're going to, let me just quickly stop that chair. Is it a situation where we're going to say, well, that's just the way things are, but they'll get back to normal quickly? There is not going to be back to what it was. I really don't believe that. But there will be, if we define normal as a new way of doing things, then there's no doubt as human beings that we are resilient and we will get back to some kind of normality, but with different things, different ways of doing things. Just like this morning, you know, working from home is a challenge for all of us over here. So that's why I decided to call it Unbelievable. The situation is unbelievable. Nobody could have predicted this. But also what we need to look at is making our customers' experiences unbelievable. And the people who are able to now use the current situation and say, well, we can create a world where we can make a difference. Those are the people, obviously, who are going to succeed the most. So in reality, yeah, there's lots of challenges that we're going to face. But congratulations for being here today, because you've just taken that first action then to delighting your customers. Of course, as you can see, I'm really excited and pumped up that you're here. All of you that are here, and regardless of whether you know it right now, you've just taken obviously some big steps towards discovering the magic and the mystery of customer care and loyalty. I know from Janeo, and thank you for sending that comment, that sometimes it is a mystery. Where do we start? What is the one thing that we can do? And Janeo, I hope that I'll be able to address that for you. But for 30 years now, as I mentioned with Dunn, more than 30 years, I've been trying to discover what it is that, you know, makes customer care the way work the way it does. What is it that turns customers on and converts them into incredibly loyal customers? That's what we're looking for, loyal fans of the business. And what makes them want to come back for more and more and more, and to pay higher prices, okay, and to tell their friends and their families and their colleagues, and to treat you, obviously, and your team with respect and with compassion and with care. And of course, on the other hand, what is it that turns them off, and what is it that disappoints them and causes them to walk away in disgust sometimes? What is it that companies do that create a whole gang of really unhappy and disappointed customers, and they have no hesitation, sadly, today, to do a lot of damage to the business, to cost us a lot of money to sort them out, but also to counteract all of that bad publicity and so on. Now, of course, even after 35 almost odd years of this, I can't claim to be an expert. I wish I could tell you that I know it all. But if there's one thing that I've learned, is that there is no magic wand. There are lots of lessons, and I will share them with you this morning. And by the way, this is also a good point to tell you that part of your deal for paying this obscene amount of money to be here this morning is that you get to call me whenever you want to, until the day that I die. We'll make the contact details available to you. but I'm really happy to chat to you on the phone about some of the unique problems that you face. You can send me an email. I can respond to that as well, and WhatsApps and so on. But what is it that we can do to kind of figure out the ways that you can make a difference and obviously make the world a better place? And I guess by signing up for this breakfast, you realize that there aren't any superpowers. There is no magic wand, no miracle cure, but there is some kind of a plan, which we've tested over the years with many organizations. And I want to take a chance to just guide you quickly through it to show you the path in this forest over here. I can tell you, and I say this without any shame, that somewhere around 40% of our clients fail to achieve the objectives that they set out to achieve. And we have a money-back guarantee in my business, and we don't want to be seen as part of that failure. But there are a lot of things that businesses are not prepared to do. There was an article, for example, recently in the Harvard Business Review, which said, why are companies, knowing that this customer care and customer loyalty is so important, why do companies just simply not do it? And the answer was quite simple, because they make a lot of money. You see, in the short term, there's a lot of money to be made when you don't take care of customers. You don't have to sort out their problems. You don't have to hire a whole bunch of people to get things going. It is in the long term cheaper, but in the short term it's cheaper, but in the long term we pay a very serious price. And I have some examples over there. I'd like to focus obviously on the positive for today, but there are a lot of examples of companies that have literally gone out of business because they weren't prepared to actually do the long-term stuff. They were so focused on the short term, and it created havoc for them. So let's take a look at some of that plan. And so often people like you and me just don't know where to start. It just seems so overwhelming. There's so many things that need to happen over there. But this morning, I want to give you a chance to take a look at some of the things that will help you. So a good place to start then is perhaps with this event. And what I want to be able to do is to give you two possibilities. The first possibility is, how do you diagnose your current situation? What is a snapshot of where you are right now? And we could look at literally hundreds of characteristics. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm going to just give you a handful of things that you can take a look at. In fact, in your PDF, there are 27 questions that you can ask. Each one of those questions can lead to a whole series of actions. For example, one of the questions is about, your customer complaint management system. Well, there are probably somewhere around 20 characteristics of a good customer complaint management system. And we can talk about them at a later time. But there's only one question that you get today, and that is, does your customer complaint management system work for you? Does it work for you as a business? So I've tried to keep it as brief as possible so that you don't feel overwhelmed by too much stuff over there. So that's number one, help you to diagnose. But then number two is to also help you to come up with some kind of an action plan. What is it that you can do immediately, starting today, as soon as this breakfast is over, to kind of get things going? And most of you probably have a good idea of where the priorities are in your business that will make you a leader in your industry. Many of you come from an industry which is incredibly competitive. I know you from Standard Bank. There are obviously in the banking environment, the top 5 banks. Nedbank used to be number 4. Now they are number 5, overtaken by Capitec with their 13 million customers in a period of about 10 years. What can we learn about it from Capitec? But you come from an industry which is highly competitive. Many of you are perhaps the leader in your industry, and some of you are not. You're the challengers in your industry. Some of you might only be starting out over there. Okay, so you can immediately go back to your business and start to work, because we want to leave you with some practical actions, obviously, that you can implement straight away. So let me now just start sharing the screen again, because I have some slides which I'd like to show you. So this is the clumsy part. Let me get there and share, and we can take a look at these slides over here. So there's absolutely no doubt, and I'm going to just do it as a slideshow. If you could just forgive me while I get this going. There's no doubt that the world of business is in absolute turmoil today. And I don't think it's going to get any better, but the companies that are able to hang in there and do something about it are the ones, without a doubt, that are being successful in the future. Are we all going to be Amazon or Disney or Nando's? Of course not. but we will be able to make a big difference over there. All right. So our agenda then, basically, as I've said to you, is really to get you to the top. How can we get you to go to the top? And we're looking at essentially answering four questions in this presentation this morning. The first question is obviously, why is this so important? In this roadmap or in this path through the forest, why is this so important? I'm not going to spend too much time on the why, because I think deep down in your heart, in your gut, you know the reasons why. But let's just share a couple of things over there. And then take a very brief look at what the heck is it customers want anyway. And over the years, I've put together a lovely little simple model which gives you a good idea of what it is that customers are looking for, particularly today. Then we're going to take a look at that diagnosis part, which I mentioned to you. How do you diagnose your current customer drivenness? And from that, you will find that you'll be able to create a nice snapshot. And then where do you start on your journey? The latter two questions are obviously very similar to each other. So if you're taking a look at where we're at, I like to and I know many of you do as well, but I like to use an analogy of baby birds. Baby birds begin their lives being nurtured by their parents, being protected by their parents. But at some point in their short lives, their parents nudge them out of the nest. In the case of vultures and eagles and various others, they actually literally push them off the cliff. And what happens is that that baby bird, even though it didn't know it at that stage, has learned how to fly. It's part of their process over there. And for me, it's been strange that for 30 years, why is it that we want to talk about, taking care of customers? Isn't this something that should just come naturally, like flying in the case of a baby bird? Well, it doesn't happen naturally, sadly. And so from that perspective, obviously what we want to do is take a look at, what is it that we need to do, obviously, to get this whole thing going. Like those baby birds, when we reach a certain stage in our business, we need to get that nudge. And perhaps that nudge has come now with this whole coronavirus thing. Maybe that nudge has just happened over there, and we will be able to soar into our new life together. What's happened in the world of business today is going to create a new normal. And the nice thing is that you and I will have an opportunity to change and to transform our families, our friends, obviously the lives of our colleagues and the lives of our customers. And, people like me who are the world's eternal optimists, always looking for that silver lining. Okay. I've been hearing a lot of absolutely beautiful reports of what's kind of been going on in the world. Apart from anything else, many cities are reporting that they're hearing the sounds of birds in the streets for the first time ever. There was a lovely image I think I saw on CNN where there were peacocks walking through the streets of, could it have been Rome or something like that. NASA has reported a dramatic drop in pollution levels, almost giving the world a chance to breathe again. Okay, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. My wife popped out yesterday to do a little bit of shopping for us, and the roads were an absolute pleasure. No traffic jams. But perhaps the most important change has been that people have become kinder and more compassionate. They have become more caring of their neighbors, of their loved ones. One of the things that has happened is that Eskom has promised us there are going to be no power failures during this lockdown. I mean, what more could we want over there? And I must tell you that I really am very happy that there'll be no more Kardashians and other empty celebrities to be seen on our screens. Somehow in this crisis, those people, we can see that they've made no contribution to our happiness over there. Of course, we've also had our fair share of jerks who have wanted to take advantage of this. I had a couple of empty gas bottles, and as part of my panic, like all the rest of us, I decided that maybe it would be a good idea, just in case, to have these gas bottles filled. So I take them to one of the major retailers, which will remain nameless, that have got a gas filling section. Take it to the young guy, and in a very embarrassed way, he said to me, "Sir, I'm sorry, I can't help you." So I said, "Well, what's the matter? Have you run out of gas?" "No, well, we haven't run out of gas. But these gas bottles are not our gas bottles. You didn't buy them here, so I can't fill them." And I thought to myself, which manager made this incredibly stupid decision to not sell a customer something? We've seen, that there's a lot of people who out there who as I said, the best word I can use is jerks. They just haven't fallen in with the spirit of things. So I think from that perspective, really some good stuff possible over there. I think there's also some great examples which I'd like to share with you again of some companies, both local and international, who have done something quite spectacular. And not least of which is Nando's. I have a little Nando's video that I'd like to show you. Oops, let me just get this going over here. Amazon, for example, has prioritized essential products to deal with the crisis. So they've said, well, as far as we are concerned, there's a lot of people out there who actually are selling stuff which is not important for right now. So they've put those in the back burner and they have prioritized the essential products over there. Scandinavian Airlines, even today, this morning on the news, I read that 36,000 people are going to be retrenched or suspended from British Airways. Scandinavian Airlines a week ago announced that they are taking those staff that are currently not busy and they're training them up to be healthcare workers. In fact, as far as I know, they're already helping in hospitals over there. So just with a little bit of a shift in mindset, they have created a whole new set of nurses. And no doubt when the economy turns again, and it will turn again, they will be able to go back to their normal jobs. Okay. The first email that I received was from the Sloan Management Review, a business journal, competing with the Harvard Business Review. Harvard Business Review, I might add, have been bombarding me with emails almost every day. Buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. Okay. Sloan Management Review started off completely differently. They said, hey guys, we know that many of you are sitting at home, and what we want to do is offer you the opportunity to have free articles from our archives for 3 days. Absolutely brilliant. Free deliveries from everything. My local pizza joint has said we will deliver to your house. The owner has actually done so. Companies like Louis Vuitton, Tesla, Dyson have shifted production almost immediately to make respirators, which are in desperate need at the moment. John Lewis, a big department store in the UK that sells furniture and clothes and gifts and all sorts of things, said, well, our staff are sitting here with nothing really to do, so they sent them to retailers to help pack the shelves and do the tills and so on. Taxi drivers and hotels and restaurants offering free meals, free trips, free accommodation to doctors and nurses who can't get home in the mass transport systems that have been cut to bits. And a lovely example from Nando's, let me just quickly kill that, a lovely example from Nando's founder, Robert Brosen, who actually, an absolutely wonderful man. I'd like to show you a video that he put together. Now, you've got to remember as you watch this video that Robbie Brosen is the founder of Nando's. Robbie Brosen is the chief executive and supreme commander. His wealth can't actually be measured, okay? He's incredibly wealthy, and yet he was able to humble himself and come to the point where he recorded this video, which I find very inspiring.
We first turned the Nando's flame on in 1987. It was an exceptionally difficult time to start a business. The flame we lit that day has continued to burn, not only in that casa, but in thousands of casas around the world. Today, we turn that flame off and the grills will go cold. This is the first time this will happen in South Africa. There are a lot of difficult first times happening in South Africa and in the world this week. But we don't do this with sadness. We do this with pride, with courage, with passion. We do this because for the first time, our flame must leave our home and go to yours and stay there for now. It's been called social distancing, but we like to think of it as social togetherness because we're in this together, even though for now, we must be apart. Today, I feel energized and inspired. I have full confidence in our country, led by President Cyril Ramaphosa. And I'm beyond proud of the Nando's leadership and Nandokas who have stood as one and lived the Nando's values and purpose. The way we have behaved today will define our legacy way into the future. Together, we can flatten the curve. May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung. and may you stay forever young. Stay safe, stay home, and when we're all ready, we'll fire it up once more.
Now, I mean, in this video, there are just, let me stop that share. There are just so many beautiful lessons over there, you know, about their values, about empathy, what it's like for us, what we're all feeling. There's that sense of hope. But, you know, the most important thing for me is that the chief executive of a business with more than 2,500 branches all over the world was able to humble himself and come down to our level and say, hey, you know, this is the way life is. And I find it particularly inspiring. You know, Robbie Brosen, as you saw in that video, he's the bald guy over there. He's just an absolute wonderful human being over there. And he's never allowed his success to kind of get to him. And I'm sad to tell you that the majority of, by far, the chief executives that I know of South African businesses are unable to do so. It's too embarrassing for them. They are too much of a big deal to be able to do that. But perhaps the most important lesson for me is that if your boss is not on board, if the most senior person in your organization is not on board on this issue of customer loyalty and customer care and customer delight, well, then you probably are wasting your time. In those 40% of cases that I mentioned to you, where we have not succeeded in helping our customers, where we have not succeeded in helping them to achieve what they set out to achieve, it's inevitably been because the boss has not wanted it. So I think that's where some amazing lessons come through over there. So a really beautiful video from him. So as I said, individuals and companies like that baby bird have just been nudged out of their comfort zones. Here's a great excuse to get going, and there's no better place to start with our, you know, changing the culture than what has happened to us all right now. Okay, there are more examples in your PDF. Okay, your PDF relating to some things. I want to just show you some things that I've got over here. Let me quickly get to this again. I do apologize for the clumsiness, but we'll get it right. There are, again, share over there. Let me press the slideshow. As I mentioned, most of these examples are actually in your notes. About the fact that the companies that take care of their customers and employees benefit greatly. That's just a given over there. We've all heard the stats. You know the stats. There's literally hundreds of them. But companies that excel, for example, grow 7 times faster than those that don't. We have a situation where they are 60% more profitable than their competitors. We know that it's greater than 5 times more expensive to acquire a new customer. In fact, in some of our client companies, that figure approaches 12 times more expensive to acquire one new customer. And think about how people have changed. Customers are savvier, they're cleverer in what they expect from business. We know it takes 12 positive experiences to make up just for that one negative experience. 86% of buyers will pay more for a better experience. Customer service agents fail to answer customers' questions, you know, so often over there. And 51% will just never do business again with a customer after just one negative, with a company after just one negative experience. Now, these are scary, scary statistics over there. A summary sheet that I've given you looks something like this. It's an absolute mess as a slide. But in the left-hand corner, or in the left-hand side, you'll see what I've called the unhappy terrorists. Now, not all of these actions are going to apply in your business, but I can tell you that by far the majority of them. This is a generic list. But if you take a look at them and just tick them off, you'll find that unhappy customers do a lot of damage to our business. If you look in the center column, I look at the neutral, indifferent, couldn't care less customers. They're better known as mercenaries. These are the customers who, it doesn't matter to them who they do business with. A pizza is a pizza is a pizza is a pizza. You know, groceries are groceries are groceries. They don't really care who they do business with. And as you can see from those things, and when you look at them in your own time, you will find that the reality is that those are also very undesirable. They're not as undesirable as the bad things, what the terrorists do, but they are very undesirable nevertheless. On the right-hand side are the delighted, the loyal customers, the customers who are our partners, who are with us for life, members of our family. And as you can see, again, there's a whole long list of the potential benefits that we get. And some of them are not financial benefits, many of them are. And we're going to look at the financial benefits in a minute. But many of them are about what your day looks like. At the end of the day, do you say, man, I had a brilliant day? Or do you just say, I'm dreading the thought of coming in tomorrow morning? What about the financial side of it? Well, this is a typical example that, as you can see along the bottom scale over here, we've got year 0, when you first sign up that customer, year 1, 2, 3, etc. And then how profitable that customer is into our business along the vertical scale. So initially it's expensive. There are the acquisition costs. You know, is it expensive to acquire a customer? There's some examples of the kinds of things that happen. But then with a bit of luck, we can start charging some kind of a base profit, usually around 3, 4, 5% after tax. Okay, and that I'm going to keep the same for all the years. If you're in a competitive environment, it is a bit lower. If you're not in a competitive environment, you can charge a little bit higher and recoup some of that profit. So the figures, will vary from company to company. But what happens is that when we take care of customers, there are benefits that also accrue from things like being able to charge a price premium. We looked at Nando's. Nando's charges you and me a lot of money for chicken, for grilled chicken, but we don't mind. We pay for it. We don't walk out of there saying, well, I just got ripped off terribly. We go because of something much more than chicken. It tastes great, but it's much more than chicken. We get the power of referrals and recommendations. We get increased sales because they come more often and they spend more. And obviously, from that point of view, they become less price sensitive. The cost to serve reduces because we get to know them and what they like and how they prefer to do business with us. And then, of course, our marketing costs shoot down because what happens is that they're out there marketing on our behalf through the power of referrals and recommendations. Now, all of those things might start off quite small. In fact, in the first couple of years, they might not be too much. But folks, I must tell you that in reality, as time passes, it is much more, worth much more than that base profit that you charge. And in fact, it gives you the opportunity, if you want to, if you choose to play around with your prices. But the real benefits, the financial benefits, come from all of those things on the right-hand side. And so from that perspective, we need to be able to take the long-term view, like Amazon and Nando's and Disney and all those other companies, and say, well, let's get this going. The question that people always ask, and this is really what the rest of the presentation is this morning, is, yes, that's all very well, I understand that, but how? How do we get it going? Where do we start? And as I said to you, the diagnosis is probably the most important part. What do companies, like, for example, Woolies, Nando's, Capitec in South Africa, and internationally, companies like Amazon and Virgin Atlantic and Disney and Lux Resorts and dozens of others, and we've got lots of examples which I can share with you. But what is it that they actually do to be so customer focused, to be so customer driven? That's the question that I'd like to leave you with the answer with. And I'm going to start off with a figure which really nicely, a little picture that nicely summarizes it and is nice and easy for you to remember. Now, as you watch this picture, remember, it's in the form of a pyramid. And like any pyramid, the basis, the foundation needs to be strong. Otherwise, the whole thing crumbles. So this is what it looks like. To create sustainable customer loyalty and create high barriers to switching for your customers, it begins with getting the basics incredibly right. We've got to stop doing those things which are the dumb things. Now, put dumb things in inverted commas. But we have to stop doing the things which upset our customers, okay? To keep our promises, focus on the little things which make a big difference. If you don't get this right, then the foundation is weak. So what is the promise that we make to our customers? If we say that you're going to come here for a delicious meal, it had better be delicious. If we say to them, we will take care of you within 20 minutes, we better take care of them in 20 minutes. And so from that perspective, obviously getting the basics right, incredibly right, becomes the foundation for everything. Related to that, but even more important today, is that customers' lives are becoming incredibly complicated, all right? Not least of which is what's happening today. And because they've become so complicated with RECAs and FICAs and reports of this and being bombarded with 400 emails a day and having to make appointments to see every single subject teacher at school, and I mean, it's just become an absolute nightmare, just being alive today. The companies that make it easy and effortless for customers, okay, are the ones who are no doubt going to get the bulk of the business. The best example that I can talk to you about is Amazon.com, okay? But there are plenty of others. Make it easy, make it effortless. And you can do it at 4 levels. The physical level, to make it physically easy. but obviously it's also the thinking level, the intellectual, the conceptual level, the emotional level, where customers feel empowered. They don't feel disempowered, where they say, I'm not even sure, why they're doing this to me, and I know that this is going to be a nightmare. The opposite of that is, no, it's my choice. I'll be okay. And then, of course, the time effort. Now, once you get those two right, then you can start doing the fancy stuff. And the fancy stuff comes back to the relationships, okay? Building relationships. Now, some of you will say, but Aki, that's all very easy. We've got 40 million customers. Well, somehow you're going to have to get that right. Somehow you have to make them feel unique and special, because if you don't, then they're going to be just another account. And they really hate that, okay? So we've got to give them evidence. It's not just about platitudes where we put up nice posters or we put up something on our website. We need to be able to touch their hearts. And Danaro, your question was, what is the one thing that we can do? If there is one thing, okay, I think it's about that ability in all of those transactions to just reach out to them. You might say, but it's impossible. The only time we ever see them is at the ATM. But at the ATM, with a little bit of a change of the technology, for example, we can acknowledge them and say, hello, Mr. Kalliatakis, hello, Aki, nice to see you again, or nice to hear from you again. It really doesn't require much from our point of view. You can go one step further. I know that many ATMs in Europe, for example, at the moment, as you go to the ATM, there's a photograph of a missing child. So instead of having it on the milk cartons as they used to in the old days in America, what happens now is if a child goes missing, the bank climbs in there and puts up a photograph and says, have you seen this missing child? Okay, it's a compassionate act. And what happens, okay, is that literally millions, if not tens of millions of people per day are saying, oh, that was nice. Okay, so it's really about literally doing thousands of things that show the customer that they're important and that we are human beings over here. We're not just some cold-hearted company where all we want is your money. Of course, that's not the only way of achieving that. There are literally, again, hundreds of ways. In fact, there's at least 82 ways with many examples in each one of those ways to add value and to surprise them, to constantly find innovative and creative ways to give them that unbelievable, personal, and memorable experience. Sometimes it's a simple thing. Something like, for example, sharing information with them that they don't normally have access to. That's a very simple thing. Stuff that is secret that we keep close to the chest, we give it out to them, okay? Sometimes it's about making their lives just a little bit easier by adding an extra component, okay? So, for example, I know that when I travel, I sometimes just get a headache, and I sometimes forget to take my Panados with me. Now, I was traveling overseas once, and what happened is I went into the pharmacy and they gave me something like Advil or Disprin or something, but in the actual packet, there was a little paper cup, a little fold-up paper cup. And they said, because we know that you don't want to go and buy a whole bottle of water, here's a little paper cup over here. Go to the loos, open the paper cup, okay, put your water in and drink your fill. It's just little things that make a big difference. Do you think I noticed the price of those headache pills? Of course not, okay? I had a problem that needed to be solved, and they went one step further by saying, and we'll give you an opportunity to go and get some water and drink your pill. These are the kinds of things, and there are literally thousands of possibilities over there. And once again, if you contact me, I'll be happy to share those with you. Now, all of those then together create the so-called blue ocean. Red oceans are full with the blood of shark fighting shark, but blue oceans is unexplored, uncharted territory. And you use that value innovation, your ability to innovate on value, to create new market space, to do something which customers have never seen before. And in that process, make your competitors irrelevant. Will they copy you? Of course they will. But by that time, you've moved on. You've moved on to another unexplored, uncharted new idea. And they're just always doing catch-up. That's where Capitec, for example, in the banking industry have done something fantastic. I remember seeing an advert where they said, and by the way, at Capitec, you probably have noticed our branches are small. Well, the reason why our branches are small is because we don't have long queues. Now, that may or may not be true, but it doesn't matter. But the moment I heard that, I said, yeah, that's it. That's exactly. I want a business with short queues. Okay, so can you see that it's about the perceptions of customers? It's not only what we have done for real, it's also about changing the perceptions of customers. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of the blue oceans. Okay, so you're saying, yeah, that's all very well. I understand that, and that's what customers want. But how? What must I do this afternoon? What can I do to get things going? So it's really now the model, the diagnostic model, but the action plan comes to these things. I have to tell you something that I have seen a lot of companies that do a great marketing plan, a strategic marketing plan. All the I's dotted, T's crossed, bosberaad, the whole thing, okay? When I say to them, do you have a customer management strategy, a customer retention strategy that is as powerful as your marketing plan? I usually get silence, blank looks, and a look of confusion on their face. The reality is that that customer retention plan, customer management strategy has to be as powerful, if not more detailed, than your customer acquisition strategy. Acquiring customers is just too expensive. Now, how do we do that? What do we do? Well, that's what the rest of this is about. There's obviously a lot of internal analysis and planning. And by all means, go away on a bosberaad for 3 days, do the game drives, put up lots of sheets on a few whiteboards, make sure that you do some good stuff over there, and come up with a good customer value proposition or a customer chart or whatever words you want to use to describe that. But don't forget that it's not only what we think. The customers want to be part of that story. So what we need to do is to very deeply, instinctively understand their expectations. How do you do that? By asking them questions about the pyramid, okay? What are the basics? When you come to our business, what are the things that are the non-negotiables, right? And work from there. So asking them what they want and what they don't want is important. Now, I want to come back to the issue of what they want and don't want in a couple of slides, okay? The other things, of course, is to watch them and to take a look at their perceptions of the experience. What was it like dealing with us? When you watch them in the queues, when you watch them interacting with you, sometimes doing little surveys, what's the one biggest challenge that you face, for example? Their perceptions of what it's like dealing with us are absolutely critically important. Okay, so that's the starting off point. If you said to me, Aki, where do we start? I would say start off by just making sure that you're on track in terms of those things. Now, know that most of you in your business have probably done some kind of an activity like this already. But if I may, I'd just like to point out a couple of little issues which I think are important. The moment we think that our customers are rational, unemotional, logical creatures, we've made a big mistake. As Tom Peters says, they never have, they never will be logical and rational, okay? They're, on the contrary, emotional, illogical, irrational people, okay? And I've got a couple examples for that. They don't know what they want. That's the sad thing. Henry Ford, 100 years ago, said, if I asked customers what they wanted in terms of vehicles, they would have said, I want faster horses, better horses. The founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, he said, customers don't know what they want until you show it to them. But I can tell you something without any hesitation. Maybe customers don't know what they want until they see it, but what they do know is what they don't want. Okay, so if you ask that question, what is it that you don't want? What is the non-negotiable? What are the 3 biggest challenges that you face in doing business with us? Well, then you will find that they are very good at telling you. Okay, and that then covers, getting the basics incredibly right. The dumb context. They're not dumb because we don't do dumb things, but our customers see them as dumb. And so, of course, it's always the little things that make a big difference. It's the little things that irritate the hell out of customers, but it's also little random acts of kindness, as they've been known, that make a big difference. They remember all the little stuff. They don't remember the big stuff. It's not important to change your whole business. It's important to change all those thousands of little transactions that happen every day, every week, every year. All right. And so, of course, the irrational part of it, and don't worry, I'm not going to be only talking about my wife and children. I want to talk to you about me as well. But my wife owns a grand total of 58 pairs of shoes. And I said, but why do you need so many shoes? She can't answer rationally, and it doesn't matter because she works hard and she deserves those shoes. But at the end of the day, she's got to stay fashionable. She's got to be cool amongst her friends. All of these things are very important, okay? If the latest color is yellow, then yellow it must be. And I use yellow on purpose because a while ago, about probably 25 years ago, yellow sandals were the rage, okay? Yellow sandals, the sexiest pair of yellow shoes my wife ever owned. And I just loved her wearing those shoes. And I said to her, but those shoes are so sexy. Why don't you wear them anymore? And she says, no, because yellow's out of fashion now, okay? I'm just looking desperately forward to the day when yellow comes in fashion again, okay? But the point I'm making here is that it's not rational, and it doesn't have to be rational, okay? My kid came home from school. He's 16 years old, comes home from school one day and announces that he wants to get some Calvin Klein underpants. The first question I want to know is, who's going to see your underpants? You know, this is really troubling me. No, but you see, it's cool underpants, okay? Nobody's going to see them except when he pulls them up high above the belt line of his pants, and everybody then knows that he's wearing Calvin Klein. You know, at the end of the day, I said to him, well, how much do these cost? Oh, Dad, only about 300 Rand. You think I'm crazy? I can go to Macro and buy, 5 pairs of underpants for that money. But you see, as far as he's concerned, it's not about underpants. It's about cool. It's about the cool factor. And it's okay. You'll never guess what car I drive, okay? But now my value system is a little bit different. But what I drive is a smart car. Now you'll say, but hang on, Aki, I mean, you've got a bit of spare money in the bank. Why the hell would you drive a smart car? Well, I am stingy and I don't like spending money. And the smart car does save me a lot of money on petrol. But let me tell you, it's not only that, okay? It's also about giving back to the world. It's about that when I fill up with petrol, I don't fill up for 1,000 Rand, but I fill up with a grand total of about 30, 35 liters. And I get the same number of kilometers as you do on your petrol tank, but I'm doing something to save the world. Not only am I stingy, but I'm also a tree hugger. And it helps me to hug more trees by driving a smart car. Of course, ever since I had my first smart car, and I'm onto my third one right now, but ever since I had my first smart car, there's a whole host of other benefits. First of all, for example, most other road users kind of feel a little bit sorry for you. So what happened is they let you in. Even the taxis, let me in. Yeah, you can come in, because you can't afford a big car, okay? It's a source of great merriment and joking. Whether I'm filling up with petrol at a petrol station, my clients, they sometimes walk me down to the parking lot to see my smart. And they ask me questions, can you fit into this thing? One of my clients in Pretoria said to me, no, Aki, what's spoke with you? Is you Morphy? What's the matter with you? Are you gay? I mean, that's a judgment of him, not of me, okay? But the point is, everybody laughs, okay? They all want to tell me their smart jokes. My favorite smart joke comes from a client of mine in Standerton, who said to me one day with a serious look on his face, but with a twinkle in his eye, he said, Aki, this is the car that I want my daughter's boyfriend to drive. So I looked at him and I said, Dries, why would you want your daughter's boyfriend to drive this little smart car? And he looked at me and he said, no, because it's got no back seat. And I thought, oh man, that's exactly it. Of course, it's got no back seat. I mean, as a dad, that's exactly what I would want as well. And of course, one of the nicest things, the best thing, and by the way, for all of you men out there, this is the best part of it, okay? I have never had so many women flirting with me as since I've had my smart car. They actually, just chat to me. They sometimes wait and they say, oh, very nice car, but can you fit inside, type of thing. And it gets into a whole big conversation. And I must tell you something, if I wasn't so scared of my wife, I'd probably say to them, hey, would you like to come for a cup of coffee? And they say, yes, yeah, let's go, okay? So you see, there's a lot of reasons why I drive my smart car. And then recently, I discovered yet another good reason, and that is that when you look at those lists that come from insurance companies, right at the bottom of the list, okay, is smart. Nobody wants to steal them. Nobody wants to hijack them because there's no market for smart cars. And besides which, if you drive a smart and you steal the damn thing, it's so obviously there, there's a red smart, let's find it, you get picked up straight away. So it makes me feel much safer as well. And by the way, I'm safe in that car because it's got a 5-star NCAP safety rating. Okay, so if we come back to the how, I will tell you the BMW story just to finish off with. Okay, but if we come back to the how, okay, that's where we start. We've got to get into the very souls of our customers. It's not enough to just do some superficial, peripheral stuff. We've got to get into their souls. And if we ask nicely, they will tell us. They will tell us why they want to drive a smart. It's just a matter of saying to them, sign on the dotted line. And they will be there because they feel that we have taken the trouble to listen to them. Now, what do you do next? Well, what you do next is pretty obvious, okay? Obviously, you've got to do some kind of customer journey map, okay? You've got to put together some kind of a journey management process. And I'm giving you a very generic one over here. Yours will be obviously very customized for your business, but it starts off at the beginning. Are we spending our energy and our money and our resources segmenting the right customers, our favorite kinds of customers, and targeting those with our messages? Instead of doing the mass spray and pray approach where we spray out some messages, whether it's on television or on the social media, or sending them stuff that is unsolicited, are we in fact getting very targeted? Are we spraying out messages and praying somebody will buy something? Or are we saying this message, because it's added value, will be welcomed by the customers? In fact, Seth Godin talks about having RAP messages, R-A-P. Are they relevant to me? Are they anticipated? Do I look forward to them? And are they personalized? Okay, so I think from that perspective, you know what you need to do. And it's hard when you have 30 million customers, but it's possible. Okay. Then, of course, how good are we at managing inquiries and converting those inquiries when they say, oh, they are interested? I have to tell you, so often businesses, even though I'm keen to do business with them, they start off on the wrong foot. They haven't made it easier for me. When I changed banks recently, and I won't mention which brands, what happened is I said to the lady who had approached me from my new bank, I said to her, I just dread the thought of having to write all those letters and cancel 17 different debit orders. And I know it's going to be screwed up, and I know it's going to just be an absolute nightmare. So better the devil you know than the devil you know, but than the devil you don't. And she looked at me and she said, Aki, I'll write those letters. I'll make sure that it's all fine. Well, it was a no-brainer. I immediately moved my accounts. I still have my old account doing almost nothing with the old bank, but now I'm more active with the new bank over there. All right. And then the welcoming and getting to know process. You know, this is the point where they will suffer from buyer's remorse, perhaps. Okay. But what are we doing to make them feel welcome? How are we giving them a chance to get to know our business? Do we send them, like, for example, Suntime does a series of 1-minute videos on their phone saying, welcome to our business. This is what you can do. This is what our website looks like. You can save yourself a lot of trouble by, phoning this number. And by the way, we're going to send you something that you can keep in your car, in your cubby hole. And if you ever have an accident, God forbid, this is, the instructions of what you can do. So just a few short little 1-minute videos that actually help the customer to understand how the business runs, and it says to them, oh, they actually care, all right? But obviously at the beginning of a relationship is also when they're most likely to share with you information about them. Later on, they're going to say, but what are you asking all these questions for? But at the beginning, because they're keen to obviously be with you, all right, they obviously are using that opportunity to, it's an opportunity for us to get to know them. Okay, my alarm's going to go off in 10 minutes time to tell me I'm running out of time. Don't worry, you're not going to miss anything. And then, of course, delivering on the basics. We spoke about the basics, okay? And then comes the question which flabbergasts everybody. I say to people, you have got a great strategy. Tell me what, and this is where I usually get the blank stares. In one large organization, eventually about a minute after asking this question, a young PR lady says, we send our customers a naughty magazine months. 4 times a year we send them a B. That 3 years from now, they're going to come back and buy the brand. And she said, actually, no. I said, well, that's exactly the point. Okay. What formal retention activity do we say? Millions of stuff going through there. And the only time I ever get a phone call from the manager is to say, you're in overdraft. That's just not good enough. And then, of course, you've done all your homework. There comes a time when you need to be able to say, hey, you know what, it's our turn to win now, okay? And that is where, obviously, okay, customer value development, it's just a way of saying, you know what, how are we going to now get back some return over here? And this is where the power of referrals, recommendations, cross-selling them, upselling them, getting recommendations from them, all of those things that make us more money. You've now earned the right to do that because you have invested in this relationship. And now you can say to them, well, why don't we, make it more permanent now? Why don't we get engaged? Okay. And some good stuff happens over there. All right. I believe we're having some sort of a problem with I've got 10 minutes left. We're having some problem with the internet, but we've got an opportunity to actually get things going over here. Let me just turn off this alarm here and we can get going. Okay. Of course, sometimes things will go wrong. And as I mentioned to you, that's one item over here, but how good are we at managing problems and recovering? If you write to me, I'm going to send you that list. Okay. But it's a long list of the best way of doing that. We also need to look at winning back lost customers. They've sometimes left for the wrong reasons. Maybe the price was too high. Maybe something was more attractive at that stage. But we've got to ask them. And then we start the cycle all over again. Needless to say, you've got to have some measurement in your organization, some kind of a way of monitoring the process. And this is where, of course, it makes a huge difference to actually measure the right things. You can't measure 30 things. But if you have 5 or 6 good measures that let you know that things are going well, measures of loyalty, internal and external. All right. And then come 6 enablers, the 6 things that help the central process happen. First of all, are you constantly looking outside and saying out the window and saying, who does this best in the world? What can we learn from McDonald's, from Disney, from Amazon.com? Is there something that we can do to imitate them? Copy, copy, copy. Copy from the best. Don't only copy from your competitors, but copy also from people way outside of your industry. What can you learn from the Hollywood movies in terms of launching products, in terms of creating a sense of anticipation? So look out there and copy what you can from the best practices worldwide. Of course, underlying everything, this one I can't emphasize enough. It all depends on the leadership, obviously, right at the top. The people, getting them fired up and motivated. In fact, one of my books is called Turning Ducks into Eagles, How to Manage and Motivate People to Delight Your Customers. And your organization, how is it structured? Where do we have the branches? What do we do? Do we distribute at the customer's house? It's very convenient having my bank in my pocket on my cell phone, okay, when it works, okay. And then the processes and systems, there are obviously dozens of those that impact on the customer. And needless to say, how do we use customer information? How do we collect information? And how do we use technology? One of our clients went and bought 300 tablets for their sales staff. And because they saved a little bit of money, they bought some cheap tablets where the battery died out by midday. So the sales reps would have to enter information, and by lunchtime, the battery ran out. And so they had to then go and spend a lot more money this time to buy them iPads so at least the battery can last the whole day. But does the technology work for us? Does the technology work for our customers? And then, of course, are you a good neighbor? Are you giving back to society? And I'm not asking you to do it in a manner which is, look how clever we are. Look how good we are. This is the school that we sponsored. This is what we've done over there, okay? It's really about just, giving back to society. And then finally, okay, we've got to take a look at this and ask 4 questions on a day-to-day basis, okay? And the reality is that value innovation is what it's all about. We take care of this whole strategy and ask, what do we need to keep doing? What do we need to do less of? What do we need to kill altogether? And then what do we need to do much better? What do we need to maybe create from scratch? Those questions then have to be challenged. And I would suggest that in terms of this process, probably at least once a year. Okay. So on your PDF, you will find 26, 27 odd questions that will help you to just get started over there. Remember, the people thing is the most important thing. I learned a very tough lesson from my last boss ever, who was just a magnificent human being. His name was Henry Bernstein. He's still alive today. And one day I was complaining about one of my members of staff, and he said, Uckles, he said, there's no bad employees, just bad managers. Boy, that hurt. That really hurt me. Because, the reality was that I thought that I was doing fantastically well. But the reality was that I wasn't. I wasn't as good as I thought I was. And in reality, he was absolutely right. It took me about 20 years to accept that he was right. but it's the way we manage people. That's really what it's all about. So if people need any excuse, remember that we sleep better at night. When we are able to bring happiness to other people, to our colleagues, who are also our customers, by the way, and to our customers and to our families and to our friends, bringing happiness to other people, somehow we find ours. My best moments are always those moments where I'm able to give rather than to take. There's a time for taking from the world, but there's also time for giving. So what I'm going to do now is I just want to end off with one final story. Let me stop the share of my screen here. I think I'm hoping that you can all tell me it's a BMW story, and then we'll put it to bed. So what happens is there's a chap from America who has just retired recently, lectured at the business schools. He was one of the first people to actually write a book on the link between customer care or customer service and profitability in the company. This happened almost 35 years ago. And what happens is he was telling a story at an event that I was also speaking at in the UK. And he said for his whole life, he was a very loyal BMW driver. It was BMW nothing. He loved the car, he loved the look and feel, he loved the performance, and he loved the way it made him feel. He felt more important in his BMW. And every 3 or 4 years, he would get involved in it, and he would actually, replace his car, and he did it willingly because he loved the brand so much. And then one day, just a couple of years before he told the story, he took his car in for a service, and what happened is that he got home and he found the cigarette lighter was missing. Oh my goodness, he thought to himself, I know that when I took the car in this morning, it was there. And he starts now, he immediately dials the dealership, it's all closed, only the security is there. And he's now, the whole night he can't sleep. He's saying, and these idiots, how can they lose this thing? And now I know what they're going to say. They're going to say it was my fault, and I'm going to, have to go and fork out a ton of money. And, how much these darn things cost, and I'm probably going to have to sue them. And so he's having all these nightmares in a typical irrational, emotional customer fashion about what will happen over here. And then what happens, okay, the next morning, 7:45, he's on the lines. He phones the dealership. I want to speak to the service manager. Gets to the service manager and he goes in, boots and all. Best form of defense is attack. He says, when I bought my car in yesterday morning, the cigarette lighter was there. When I got home last night, it was missing. What are you going to do about it? The service manager says, sir, calm down, calm down. I'm very busy right now, but I promise you, within 90 minutes, I'm going to get back to you. And I'll phone you back and I'll see what I can do. And true to his word, about an hour and a half later, the service manager phones, hi, Professor, is that you? Yes, it's me. He says, I found it. And what I've done is I've put it in a little envelope and I've left it in the reception area. Next time you're in our business, next time you're in our area, why don't you come in and pick it up? And what happens is more than anything else, okay, he has a moment of relief, a moment of, whew, okay. At least I don't have to fight with them. At least I don't have to spend the money. At least I don't have to sue them, okay? But all of his friends, all of his students, all of his family says to him, but you're in the world of service. If you want to know a service-oriented car company, you should go to Lexus. If anybody takes care of customers, it's Lexus. So he decides that morning he's going to phone Lexus and see what they would do. So he phones Lexus and he speaks to the service manager and he says, hey, listen, as far as you're concerned, I'm not one of your customers, but if I took my car for a service and the cigarette lighter was the thing, what would you do? And the service manager said, sir, well, that wouldn't happen around here. And he said, now, come on now. What do you mean it wouldn't happen? Well, sir, the reason it doesn't happen is because our two most senior technicians, before we go home at night, okay, working independent of each other, they go through a checklist and they check, did we open the cubbyhole? Did we change the radio station? Have we cleaned the car? And is the cigarette lighter there? So he turns around and he says, yeah, okay, look, just, play with me. Play this little game with me. What happens if one of them was on leave, the other one was on honeymoon? What would you do then? Okay. And the service manager says, well, sir, if I did in fact discover it was missing, I would probably go straight to the parts department and I would deliver it to you. I would bring it to your house or your business, wherever you want me to. Wow. So you wouldn't just say it's in an envelope in reception. You would actually bring it to my house. Yeah, absolutely. It's the least that we can do. Was that enough to get him to buy a Lexus? No. But that service manager knew he had one chance, literally a once in a lifetime chance to do something, and he wasn't prepared to let it go. So a couple of days later, he phones and he says, Professor, he said, I'm just going to be in your area tomorrow and in the area where your cigarette light is. Would you like me to go to BMW and pick it up for you and bring it to you? How do you beat that? How do you beat that? And it's those special moments where we've done, what we used to call the extra mile in the old days. In this case, it was an extra mile, but it's always little things that make such a big difference. So, folks, it's up to you. And I'm going to read my conclusion over here because I want to make sure that I get the thing right. Remember that you can be the hero in your business, the person who started it all. And you'll be able to look back with pride a year or two from now and at what you've achieved. We've explored the beginning of this journey to unearth the insights that you need to be a winner. I want to encourage you now to carve out just a little bit of time in your diary, especially now when it's possible, to make it happen. You won't be sorry, okay? You might be that spark that lights the fire of your company, that lights that ignition in that engine that rockets your business right up to the most incredible heights. And I urge you to do it now, not tomorrow, today. If you need any help, contact Dunn. We'll give you my contact details and we'll work from there. So from me, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you with the patience with the technology in particular. As Dunn mentioned at the beginning, there's going to be a recording available. We'll probably put it on YouTube with a secret code or something like that, or maybe we'll just make it available to everybody. But thank you very much. And Dunn, thank you for setting it up as well. Really grateful.
Okay, thank you very much for a most interesting presentation. Can we take a couple of questions? Would you like? Have we got time?
Absolutely. I'd be delighted to do that.
Okay, so has anybody got a question for Aki?
Danilo, you had that question and you said if there's one thing that we can do. I wish I could say to you, yes, if you did this, but if you just did this, okay, all your competitors will copy it, okay? It's about just staying ahead. And I think in terms of, that pyramid model, you'll find that there's lots of ideas. I'd love to chat to some of the ideas relating to banking, about, getting the basics incredibly right, stop doing the dumb things and so on. But, in terms of relationships, it's about noticing things. I was, for example, recently at a bank in Botswana, and one of the tellers, it was Pensioners Day. One of the tellers noticed that there was an old lady who was really struggling in the heat of Botswana. And the teller actually just left her till and she went around the outside and she got a chair and she said to the pensioner, Gogo, why don't you sit down? Okay. And everybody who was in the queue at the bank saw that. It's little acts like that. It's not a big thing, but we've got to empower people to do that. So yeah, I'm happy to share many examples with you. Anybody else?
Okay, well, since there are no more questions, I think let's thank you. Here we are. Aki, here's a question for you.
Yes.
On chat.
Excellent. Oh, let me turn my chat here.
In a large organization like Standard Bank, how do we get people to start focusing on the small things that matter and understanding we don't need to do major things only?
Okay, absolutely. So I've already said how it starts with the top person, but of course, in your own area, you are the top person. You might only influence 3 or 4 or 5 people, but it makes a huge difference over there. One of the companies that I really love is a company which we all know, Hollard, okay? And they have successfully been able to do a number of things to do it nicely. So, for example, at Hollard, every Friday, not on a day like today, but on most Fridays, they actually serve ice cream from Paul's Ice Cream to all of their employees. Paul arrives there with a little kiosk in the parking lot, and people go and get free ice cream from Paul's. But it's not about the ice cream, okay? It's about the respect that is shown from the top man down for all the people, okay? It's about the fact that the chief executive of this billions of value organization, Hollard, he actually sits once a month on the lines. He sits in the call center and takes calls from customers, okay? He's a crazy Italian man, but maybe you need to be a little bit crazy, okay? But I think at the end of the day, that's what makes a difference. The previous chief executive of ER24, who's now been promoted in his organization, but again, once a month, he used to put the uniform on of an ambulance driver, and he used to actually go out there with the ambulances, okay, and, go to accidents and scenes of heart attacks and so on, and be with his team. And then at the end of the day, the team from that region or that town would get together and have a braai for them. Again, it's a small investment, but with a massive return, okay? So we can talk about things like empowering people. We can talk about lots and lots of training. All of those things are important. But it's also the fact that I feel like I'm in the salt mines of a call center, or I'm a teller at a bank, or I'm just a till packer at the tills. But it's that feeling of making me feel special. It's about saying thank you. It's about the recognition, the pat on the back. It's about developing them, making them feel that there's some sense of hope, optimism. Look at that message from Robert Rosen. That message first went to his employees before it went to his customers, okay? A message of hope, a message of it's all going to be okay in there. So, yeah, it's about the people. And, yeah, I agree with you completely. It's not about the big stuff. You know, a good CRM package will cost your organization maybe, 500 million rand. These reward programs, it's an absolute nightmare. One of the banks just recently spent 450 million rand to get a system going where customers can earn points. And they haven't even given away 1 point at that stage. And then you have to manage it, and then it's open to fraud, and then you have to give away stuff so that your customers buy your stuff. Does it work? Does it keep them loyal? In the short term, yes, those loyalty programs are very powerful. But the moment somebody comes up with another loyalty program, you've lost your advantage. If I had my wallet with me right now, I would show you. I've got loyalty programs from 3 or 4 grocers, from banks, from airlines, 4 airlines. I've got loyalty programs with Etihad and British Airways. I mean, it's just a waste of good money when all customers want is that feeling of special. In the case of an airline, one of the reasons I go with Etihad is because they know this was not my first flight on the printout, okay? And somebody will come to me, go down on one knee so that they're facing me face to face instead of hovering over me. They go down on one knee and they say, Mr. Kalliatakis, welcome back again. That's all. They don't have to flirt with me. They don't have to massage my neck. They don't have to serve me a special meal. It's just as soon as the plane settles down, they come down, get onto one knee and say, welcome back. What does it take? What does it take? You can't write those things into process and procedure manuals. You know, the HR policy thing. You can't write them in. It's choices that people make because they feel respected. Okay. So in large organizations, yeah. Oh, sorry. And I noticed that the PDF is going to be sent to you now. My apologies, but it's on its way. Okay. I'm just going through the PDF. My apologies. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else before we put it to bed? My kids are saying, where's the Wi-Fi? Where's the Wi-Fi? Fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody. And please don't forget, you get to talk to me for free. I'm not going to charge you.
Awesome, Aki. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate your attendance. And excellent. Take care.
Thank you, Dan.
Stay home. Stay safe.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thanks, Dan.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks, Aki. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.